one of the questions, or I think most people use the term downsizing, and in the senior move management arena, we use the term rightsizing. And so I just kind of wanted to briefly explain why that is. Let me go back. One of the main reasons is that the word downsizing, I think, often connotates loss, and it focuses on the negative, whereas right-sizing focuses on the positive. And right-sizing can be done at any stage in life. I encourage anybody to start right-sizing right now. We can all do this. For example, Devin, on May 1st, she's moving into a tiny house. So all of her possessions, she's right-sized to 6 tubs, and we'll be taking them to her new tiny house. So again, at any age, you can start right-sizing. So I'm very inspired by that, Dev, because it's been my dream probably for the last 12 years to live in a tiny house, but my spouse says no.
You'll get there.
So some of the most common things that I hear from our clients and potential clients is that they're overwhelmed and they don't even know where to start, because many of them have lived in their homes for decades and they have thousands of items. The average American home has about 300,000 items. So when you think about going through each and every one of those, people get overwhelmed and paralyzed. Also, what hangs people up is that they don't know if they should donate things or sell them. They don't know if they have value, and then they don't know where to do that. And people don't know what resources are available. Oftentimes people don't know that we're here or what we do. And of course, now it's not letting me go to the next slide. Sorry, guys, I have to shift you around. So, Dev, it looks like we have one more person. Are you able to let them in?
It's not popping up for me, unfortunately, to let anyone in, which is strange.
Okay, sorry. It was something else flashing at me.
Okay.
Bill mentioned that this is a great time for a lot of us to start the right-sizing process. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, Bill. Couldn't agree more. So how do you get started? How do you start making these decisions and stop feeling overwhelmed? Well, what I have our clients focus on are their big rocks, which is the name of our company, Big Rocks Organizing. So I'll show you a visual because I think it's a lot easier. So these are my big rocks. So this is my jar of life, and I've drawn in what's most important to me. So when we start working with clients, we give them a blank worksheet and ask them to either write down or visually depict what's most important in their lives. Once you know what's most important, it's a lot easier to laser focus and to make decisions on whether or not something is going to serve you. Does it connect to your values? Does it connect to the life that you want to lead going forward? Or does it not? Do these things serve you? Do they not? So this is just an example here. I once had a gentleman ask for an example. I've had people, when I do this in person, I have actual rocks in actual jars, and people pick a rock that most resonates with them, or they can write a word and create their own rock. And so sometimes people will put the rocks on the page and take a picture. So whatever your learning style is, whether you're visual or kinesthetic or many other different types, this is an exercise that I think can serve people well. And so just knowing what's important to us helps us gain that clarity and helps us get unstuck and move forward. One of the things too that I think I see a lot, and I think Mike, you might see this too, is that our clients often wait until it's too late. They might not have the physical capacity or the emotional or cognitive ability to make decisions. And then their families and their loved ones have to step in. And unfortunately, we're really good at putting off documenting what our wishes are and getting our ducks in a row and sharing that information with friends and family. So oftentimes friends and family are just completely overwhelmed. Like maybe someone has actually passed away, and then they have this house full of 300,000 plus items and are having to make decisions. Or maybe they have to move mom or dad into a community maybe into assisted living, or maybe even into skilled nursing or an adult foster care home. And they're just utterly overwhelmed and don't know where to start. So if you have the ability, please start now. So a good way to start too is if you have a timeline, you can reverse engineer it. So oftentimes we don't, though. I'll get a call from people and they'll say, oh, we're going to move in maybe 3 or 4 years. And they're about 85 years old right now. So they don't really feel like this is a burning hot button issue. But again, please get started today. I can't emphasize that enough, because none of us know how much time we have. We never know what's going to happen. And I've worked with so many families that this has fallen on because mom or dad has a medical crisis. And now all of a sudden they can't make decisions and everybody's completely stressed and overwhelmed. And then this is just one more layer that they have to deal with on top of everything else. So you can create an artificial timeline for yourself, get an accountability partner. Maybe you have a friend that's also in the process of right sizing and maybe looking at selling their home and moving into a community, or maybe they want to live in a tiny home too. And you guys can be buddies and check in with each other on a regular basis and bring your glass of wine. So there are different methods and strategies. So I'm not going to go into these in detail. I'm going to skip to the method that I recommend people use when they're actually going through the right sizing process. So I'll just give you the options. There's Swedish death cleaning. There's the Marie Kondo method. There's the stick your head in the sand and have no method whatsoever, just avoid reality. And then there's my approach. So I encourage people to focus on the positive, focus on what you want to keep. Because especially if you're right sizing and you're moving to a much smaller space, maybe it's 50% or 25% or even 10% of the space that you currently live in, focus on what you're keeping rather than what you're letting go of. So you can take some dots, some stickers, and go around the house and put them on the items that you use, or you can actually tag them as you're using them so you can get a sense of how often you're using certain things. Over a certain, give yourself, maybe it's a month or 2 months. You could even start 1 year in advance if you have that much time. But again, none of us know how much time we have. So it's much easier to kind of cherry pick those things and pack them up and move rather than get bogged down in going through those 300,000 items. Once we get out the things that you want to keep, it's a lot easier for us to go through and help you. If you decide to have us help you, then it's easier to go back and figure out what to do with what's left. Yes, so Bill says he knows that he experienced a solution for his mom and stepdad, although not practical. Bill, did you want to share more about that?
Yeah, my mom and stepfather were in Biloxi, Mississippi. Obviously, I'm not from there. I'm a New Englander. She was showing signs of dementia. My stepfather had all kinds of medical problems. She was in the caregiver role, and they were talking about possibly leaving. I don't think it would have ever happened. They lost their home in Hurricane Katrina. So I never had to go through that process. Not a practical one, but it was a solution.
No, we don't.
And she was a borderline hoarder pack rat, shall we say.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, it was. So.
We certainly don't want to see anybody lose their home in a fire or a natural disaster.
I would not recommend that solution.
No, very traumatizing. And oftentimes trauma is behind the difficulty in assisting our clients with letting go of things. So we often assist them with working through the emotional part of the process, because it is a very emotional process. We have a lot of memories tied to our home and to the items in our homes. One tip that I share with folks who might be, like you described your mom, Bill, who might be on the hoarding spectrum, or sometimes people will use the word pack rat. The 20-20 rule can help, because oftentimes people want to keep things just in case they need them later. So if you can replace an item for under $20 in under 20 minutes, like let's imagine that you could drive to the store right now to pick up an item. then I suggest that people let it go instead of holding on to it just in case they need it. So maybe for some people it's $50 if they can, it might depend on whatever their comfort level is. I also encourage people to honor their treasures, because how many of us have things, or we know people who have items that are very meaningful to them, but they're in a box in the back of a closet somewhere or in the garage, and they're not really enjoying them. Or maybe that china that they inherited from their grandma doesn't even get pulled out once a year for the holidays. Is there a way for them to use it now? Or can they save one dinner plate and frame it and hang it somewhere fun in their home and then let the rest go? It's okay to break up sets. You don't have to keep things together. You also want to just be really patient with yourself. I think people expect to be able to go through a lot more than they can. Like oftentimes people will say, oh, I'll do the sorting myself and you and your team can come in and pack. And as we get closer to moving day, Mike here will be able to relate. Maybe they haven't accomplished as much as they hoped they would. Mike did call us in one time 8 days before the house was going to close, and the couple had been there 30 years, and I think they had just barely started going through their house, and they had pretty significant health issues. So yeah, it's always best to ask for help if you need it. Reach out if you get stuck. And then also too, having an accountability partner, like I talked about, and rewarding yourself. Maybe after a hard day of making decisions, you get to have a glass of wine, for example. I'm just going to check in on the time here. So just really briefly about resources. Here are a few of my local favorites. Many of these are not open for donations right now, but we do have some that are still open and accepting donations in the community. And I'm happy to share about that if folks are curious.
Yes.
Thank you, Sarah, for coming. She says she has to run. She has some child challenges right now. So some of the ones that are still open are the Sunshine Food Pantry in Beaverton is accepting food donations. So the Oregon Food Bank is not able to take donations from the public at this time. And then Bill, you said that you have one to share.
Yeah, and it's actually a little bit of a story, and it's related to like what you're talking about with things like china, silver, treasures, things like that. For some reason, Mom had given me half of her silver service going back to my parents' marriage, and I don't know why, part of it. Take a guess how much I used that. And a couple of you know, we don't have children. Who are we going to give it to? Nobody wants it. I ended up talking to Dennis Johnson, which some of us know as Center Street Gold and Silver. And I said, what kind of price are we talking about? I'll give you a good fair market price. I ended up trading it in, getting the dollars, and then donated it to the Alzheimer's Association Memories in the Making art program because Mom was an artist. So it was a win-win.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a great solution. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. There's also Souls for Souls that's still taking donations of shoes. They're located in Tualatin. And they normally have drop-off sites at the DSW shoe stores. I'm not sure if the drop-offs are open right now, but you can make an appointment to take shoes to Tualatin. There's also something called a give back box, and they will send you an email with shipping labels. And so it's free to send a box of up to 70 pounds worth of stuff to them. And they will get it to places that can benefit from it. There's also ThreadUp for clothing. They'll send you a free bag with paid postage, and you can send them all of the clothes that you want to donate. And they will either buy them from you if they meet what they're looking for. And then if they can't buy them from you, they'll donate them or recycle them. And I know Devin's working on that right now, so you'll have to tell us about how your experience with them goes. And then Deb, I'm trying to remember from our recent NAPO meeting, other resources that are open at this time. Do you remember?
Those are the same ones I remember. Okay. I think there might be one more, but I'll chime in if I remember it, but those are all the same ones I remember.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when things start opening up again, like who will take what kind of criteria or protocols they'll have.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to put items aside for 14 days or a certain amount of time before they put them on the shelf and try to sell them. So it'll be interesting for sure. Anybody else have any resources or questions about resources right now? Okay. So these are some recycling places, but I think I would just give the general advice of checking before you leave home, just to make sure places are still open and see if they have any kind of policies and procedures right now that have changed. These are different options for selling items. Although too, you want to be careful. We don't want to expose people unknowingly to the virus, or, on the other hand, be exposed to people maybe coming to our home to pick something up. So if possible, it might be best to hold off and wait until things calm down before you try to sell items. There are other options: estate sales, estate sale buyouts, and then cleanouts. So for estate sales, my understanding is that you want to have at least $6,000 to $8,000 of value in your items, and you need to have enough parking for about 70 people in order to have an estate sale. You also want to have a reputable company. So if you need any recommendations, please get in touch with us. And then if you don't have enough value for that minimum threshold for an estate sale, there are also estate sale buyout companies where they'll come to your home and look and see what's there and offer you a flat fee for the lot. And then they take it out of the house and sell it later through various means. But they'll pay you right there in one lump sum. And then if neither of those is an option, or maybe you have an estate sale, but then some items don't sell and they need to be cleaned out, that is an option as well. And we do cleanouts. We do prepare homes for estate sales. It's always very interesting. We had a house in January in Beaverton that we did, and the family made over $16,000 from an estate sale. And originally they didn't have any idea. They thought maybe they'd be lucky to clear 6,000, but there ended up being quite a lot of value in the jewelry, the car, various little trinkets that were found around the house. So you just never know. But we're always happy to connect people with a resource to see if an estate sale might be a good option for them. And so I know we just have a few minutes left, but we highly recommend working with a professional if you get stuck, or I think it can be beneficial to you. Like for realtors, yes, you can sell your home yourself, but oftentimes we don't know what we don't know. And that realtor has years of experience and can protect you. And the same with us. Like, we are very knowledgeable. We know all of the resources in the area. We abide by a code of ethics. We've had a lot of training in working with special needs populations and people with different brain-based conditions. So that's the very quick and dirty version. Any questions or any resources or thoughts people want to share?
I think, Whitney, you're very careful about trying to repurpose as much stuff as possible. So you try to really eliminate things going to the landfill. And that's one of the reasons why I like to recommend you, is because,
Thank you.
You do have a real passion for that, I guess would be the best way.
We do. And I think we're also able to do it efficiently, where it doesn't cost clients extra funds to be able to do that. And oftentimes our clients share that value, and it makes them feel really good knowing that their items are going to benefit other people rather than going into the landfill.